Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition in bike profiles. Now this is a bike that has been in the shop for a little bit. We had a lot of back order supply issues with Shimano. In fact, the customer had to open source, what I call open sources. He had to just go to other bike shops and internationally and buy some of the components just to get this bike built up. But such has been the inventory woes of Shimano. I've got a couple of gravel bikes I'm trying to build. This is the beginning of June. We've been waiting on shifter and rear derailleur for GRX. So anyway, let's get on with the bike profile and the build. This is a Q-Roo, as some of us like to call these bikes, V-PRi, and R-I, or VP, I'm sorry, PR for, personal record, and I for integrated. This is a Shimano 12-speed build. And if you've missed the other videos leading up to this, let me walk you through some stuff. Right now, all of these components are hardwired to the battery in the seat post. If you are running a road setup, then you can run your shifters up front in a Bluetooth mode or whatever proprietary they use to connect to the derailleurs that are then wired to a battery. But everything on the front end would be wireless and on the back end would be wired. Now, at the filming of this video, Shimano XTR, top of the line mountain bike race group just went full wireless. Also, as I'm filming this, Campagnolo went 2x13 wireless. So it's just a matter of time before Shimano on their road group will go full wireless. The XTR rear derailleur has the battery encased somewhere in here in the parallelogram area, and it's very discreet, and it's actually kind of cool because a lot of people are showing how if you hit a rock with it, it resets and does all that stuff. But XTR is now wireless as I film this. So at some point, everything I did for this bike will be null and void. And so let's go through that. So these two components come down through the Aerobar's extensions as an SD50 wire. This shifter and this shifter also come as a SD50 wire. At some point, you need to convert the SD50 wire, which is a thicker wire, to a 300 wire because the battery, which is encased here in the seat post, is a 300 series type battery, and the junction, or I should say the connections. So you have to make those four things come down this way and then convert them to this 300 wire, which is really thin, and the connector is really small, right? And then this one, and the battery are connected with a 300 wire. And as I mentioned, all of these components are all connected. Now, like I said, if they go full wireless, that won't be necessary. Some of you might say, but you could have done it with SRAM and you wouldn't have to. Personally, I don't like SRAM. Just because you can go wireless doesn't mean you have to ride it. That's just my opinion. You folks, you build your bike the way you want. This customer also, all his other bikes were Shimano as well. So, and since he wasn't building it, he didn't have to deal with it. All right. So these Aerobars will have a multitude of adjustments here. Let's see if I can get that in focus. Yeah. So there's a row of, well, there you go. That's how much adjustment these bars have. In addition to that, you have a lot of these risers. So you can go much lower or much, I think this might be the second to last tallest, but you can go really low or really tall like this. Additionally, there's also angle wedges that you can put in here. So just a lot of adjustability. However, all the Di2 wires are going through this tower and then coming into the base bar here. So you have to be, you know, have to be really careful. You have to disconnect stuff, change the riser, reconnect everything, and go again. I put in pretty long wires here, so no matter what, he could always go shorter, but he could go a little bit taller if he wanted to, right? It's always better to have more than not enough, right? This little cover here, you have your hydraulic hoses coming from both of your brake levers, and you have your Di2 wires, and it's all surrounding the headset bolt right here, top cap. So this is good that they have this little hole, but just know it's very crowded there. Also, the steer tube bolts, like nothing on this bike was pre-assembled. Every single thing on this bike came as a separate piece, and it just took so many hours to build this bike. Not to mention, there isn't a lot of instructional material out for it. There's also a bolt here, underneath here, and there's a wedge that they call it the front binder block. So there's this bolt here, torqued at 10 Newton meters, is holding this steer tube as it comes up like this. There's a block here, it's a serrated block, and it's being pushed in and held securely in place by this bolt that's coming this way, and then these two bolts that are going this way, right? That are opposing each other. There's another bolt head on the other side. So that's how this front end is held together. The bolt here, these two here, and then the top cap bolt that goes this way. In his other bike, he had a 140 front rotor, which I thought was really odd. I rarely see a 140 front rotor with a 160 rear, but that's what he had on his other bike. So when we moved the wheels over, we had to put a front 160, and then we had to buy adapters for the back to make sure that he could run 160 in the back, because the bike is designed for 160, or can be ridden 160, and he already had a rear 160 rotor. So the adapter's cheaper than buying another rotor. And now he's got more braking power and heat dissipation with a 160 rotor. All right. There is a front derailleur at 9250 series, and then the rear derailleur as well. Now the interesting thing about trying to dial this bike in, it can only be ridden. Let's go over that as well. This Di2 system can only be ridden in full synchronized mode. And if anyone has been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that I do not like full synchronization. I like to be able to shift the bike the way I want to. But when you have a tri setup like this, the only way you can shift this bike is through a full synchronized mode. So the way it's going to work is right hand shifter, if you set it up this way, I guess, will shift to harder gears. So down the cassette, then boom, the I should say the rear derailleur will shift up to an easier gear and then shift to the big ring, and then you can resume going down the cassette. Same thing if you want to go to easier gears, you push the left-hand buttons, so this one and this one, and the gears go up and up and up and up, and then when it knows it needs to get out of the big ring, it'll shift to 2 harder gears this way and then switch to the little ring. All right, so one button, it's dummy proof now. One button, harder, 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 or easier, 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 or if you're up here, easier, 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 harder, 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 right? You just push one button. I don't like that, but that's the way it is, all right? Then, when it's time to do the adjustments, you put this into the mode to do adjustments, but it's better to do it on the eTube app, because if you try to just do, like, let's say you can connect this to, I'm sorry, let's ignore the eTube app for a second. If I am just adjusting manually, I put this into adjustment mode, I can adjust the rear derailleur just fine, but then when it's time to adjust the front derailleur, you can't do it because it's in full synchro. So if you put this bike big, little, and you're trying to adjust the front derailleur, it doesn't move the front derailleur, it only moves the rear derailleur. So that's a little bit of a pain. So the only way you can trim the front derailleur is to go into the eTube app. So then you can adjust the rear derailleur, adjust the front derailleur, but everything has to be in full synchro for that to work, right? So just a lot of little sticking points, but you know, once you know what they are, the pain points are not that bad. One thing also, generally when I size a chain in little, and then I try to get the derailleur so that there's no grinding on the chain. Well, you can't do that either because it's in full synchro, so you can't get into little. So the Shimano way to size a chain is you take your chain here in your big ring, wrap it around the big ring, and then wrap it around your biggest cog, right? So you wrap it around your biggest cog, and when the two ends of the chain meet, if you're on your inner plate, you count 3 links, and then you can put on your quick link. If it's on the outer plate, and so if you folks don't know what I'm talking about, this would be an outer plate. Let me zoom in a little bit. This would be an outer plate. This would be an inner plate. So inner plate, you count 3 links, and then you have your quick disconnect. And if it's on the outer plate, then it's 2 links. All right. So just something to keep in mind when you're sizing a chain and you can't get it into little combination. That's the way Shimano recommends that you do it. All right. So that pretty much sums up what we got going on here. You've got a 50-34 chain ring setup up front. You got 11-34 set up in the back. And, you know, it just, the beautiful thing about Shimano is once you get it set up, that's it. You don't have to really do anything with it for a long time. And because this is all hardwired, then everything is running off the battery inside the seat post, and you don't have to do any coin cell batteries anywhere else, right? So one battery, and everything is accounted for there for charging. For operation, and then also for charging, right? You just charge the, and if you don't know where the charging port is, it's back inside here. Take this cover off, and when you take this cover off, then you can see in there is your charging port. Okay? So that is that. Up front here, if I haven't talked about this before, this is a dry storage bay. This is a wet storage bay. And it's funny because they'll even have a video on their YouTube channel talking about how much engineering went into this wet storage bladder, you know, how much sloshing or movement and how they tried to save weight. And I'm like, well, okay, there it is, your fuel bay hydration. And then back here, you have your box for your tools and all that other stuff, right? So that's where your flat repair goes and your tools go. So as they say, they've thought of everything. I don't know how this goes back on, so I'll do this off camera. Okay, so that is the tool storage. Now this is not his saddle. I just needed a saddle to put on the bike just to give it a look of a complete bike. So he's going to bring in his saddle. Then I think we'll do just some basic fitting just to get him on the road. And then after that, he'll ride the bike and give me some feedback, and then we'll probably put him on a fitting stand to do a legitimate bike fit. So there's still a lot more to do on this bike. Just, I guess, just stand by for more videos. All right, that is the Quintana Roo V-PRi. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you up the road.